Hi guys, this is Stan. Welcome back to my channel. How are you all doing? Today's video is gonna be a fun one because I have heard some of you are also interested in The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, the first book of the Dynasty dynasty. So I think, why not let's read it together? This vlog will be about me trying to finish this one and give my thoughts along the way. So that would be what I call minimum spoiler, which I will briefly talk about what this is about. Now I am actually 25% into this one. The reason why I read so much before filming it is only because the synopsis didn't really tell us much about this book. And I think it would be better for me to read some more first so I can briefly summarize what this book is about. To be honest, I find it very difficult to start with. In short, it is about an Asian-inspired fantasy world called Dara, and we're gonna follow a huge cast of ambitious characters. With the fall of the emperor, the ruler that stabilized all these nations, these characters will try to make the world know their names. So far, I think this one is super dry. I'm not talking about the brand. It is really dry. Mainly, we will follow quite a lot of characters. We will learn about their past and why they are making such decisions now. I found this kind of arrangement is really rare because we are only first book in and it feels like we have known them for so long. Even though maybe some of them are just like side characters, we still got a whole chapter dedicated to them. Other than that, we are also being introduced to the history of this world. I'm not gonna lie, it is quite a lot to go through. From the myth, and then what it was like during the Warring States period, how the emperor is set up, how was the relationship like between these states, and also the steampunk technology. Honestly, it is quite a lot to digest. We also get to learn the gods in this world. They have this kind of agreement that they cannot directly intervene with the matters of human, but they can do some little things to like make things go according to their way. One of the way is the prophecy. So some people in this world will make a good use of it, say like, oh, I see some signs from the gods and they are guiding us to this direction. But is it true or not? No one knows, but the gods are always watching you. With all of these world buildings, it is quite a lot to process and a lot to remember. It's been a while for me to read this kind of epic fantasy. But also through this, I know that this series is based on a historical period in China called the Qing dynasty. This emperor, Rion, defeated other 6 nations and unified Dara. Then he would standardize the measurements or burn the classics that is not under the same language. As a result, some people may see him as a dictator because he doesn't allow any variety or allow any other opinions. Or some may see him as a hero because he has unified the whole country. This is actually the same as the first emperor of the Qing dynasty because he did the exactly same things. At this point, I honestly don't know what to expect from this book because I guess I am still very early in the series. Maybe things will change later, so I guess we will find it out together. See ya! Hello guys, I'm happy to report that I have read another 25% of The Grace of Kings, meaning that I am already halfway through. I actually switched to reading it on my Kindle because there are quite a lot of details and I want to highlight it. It is wrong to do it on a library book, so I think it is better to do it on my Kindle. That is also the reason why I can say I am how many percent into the book. I am also thinking to give you guys an update every 25%. So I can have more things to talk about, and I think a 25% portion will be enough for me to share my thoughts as well. Again, it is really hard for me to summarize about what had actually happened, only because we are following such a huge cast of characters and they are doing their own things. In a very brief term, it is about these characters, how they're gonna secure their ambitions in this ever-changing, politically unstable world, especially with the death of the late emperor. We will have bandits that are gonna make a good use of this chance, prince or princess that their parentage can be traced to their grandparents, government officials that got their own agendas. It is a story about how they're gonna reach their goals. It can be sit on the throne, it can be a revenge, or it can be about how they're gonna protect their home. In this 25%, I'm not gonna lie, we'll keep being introduced to new characters. We will learn about their background, but unfortunately, not every single one of them can stay as long as they can, which also reflects how unstable, how dangerous this world is. But also, with this huge cast of characters, I sometimes did forget who they are or what they have done before. It's just too much to remember, guys. By the way, what the actual is Kuni writing in chapter 28? That ending though, or that process of this plan, it's crazy. Speaking of Kuni, I do love his bonding with another character, Mata. They are so different from each other, how they raise and what they are good at. But through mutual admiration, they become brothers. Kuni, this character, also reminds me of those traditionally seen as a good emperor or kings in Chinese history, because he is just so kind, so sincere, and care about his people. That is like all the good virtues for a good ruler. And then another character, Pari, I believe is how you say his name, how he get rid of his rivals. Those mind games and those anti-emperor poems. Wow. Boom. Speaking of this character, there is a chapter about him bringing a deer to the palace and say it is a horse. It is seen as a way to test the people in the palace. Is there anyone gonna agree with this lie, or is there anyone dare to say it is a deer? It is a Chinese idiom called calling deer a horse. No, is it? Yeah, calling a deer a horse. So I need a proper English translation about this idiom. It is widely used to describe a situation where a person falsely identifies a situation in order to deceive others or saying the opposite of the truth to justify an action. Another cultural reference I can think of is when an emperor general called Marama or Marana captured Kokomi, a princess. In brief, she made a deal with this empire general to distance the relationship between an uncle and his nephew. They are both from the rebellion and they are both very good generals. In the story, she had to kill one of them, but for the reference or the story that is based on, which is from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it is a female character seducing a father and his stepson and try to make them fight, basically. Overall, I am enjoying this book. When it gets intense, it is really good. Let's say the first battle between Kumi and the Empire, and then what had happened in chapter 28. But sometimes you do wish the story could be more upbeat, especially with the introduction of the new characters. They are just a bit slow. Maybe we shall see if things gonna get better after another 25%. See ya! You see me again, meaning that I have finished another 25% of the Grace of Kings. I have just finished chapter 39 and everything was just epic. We have seen some epic battles from Mata and some clever, brilliant tactics from Kuni. But it was heartbreaking to see this brotherhood bonding between Kuni and Mata start to go downhill because of some miscommunication. Mata is going berserk from what he has gone through. He thinks he is entitled to the glory. He even does things that I don't think would get the approval from Kuni. That sacrifice. to the gods. Now it looks like Mata has won the war and he got his own way to award or punish those that support or disobey him before. I do wonder what this kind of arrangement would do to him in the future because it was just like stupid way to do so. Other than this, it was upsetting to see that Kuni has to go for that secret mission, so he can't really communicate much to his wife Jia, and Jia thinking that she has to claim his fate, so she did something unforgiven to his husband. But as the readers, we know that something like this is going to happen because it was quite obvious from the beginning of the story. But coming to now, it looks like they are in some sort of open relationship, but at first when Kuni started to write to Jia, it was quite emotional to me because it means that Kuni never forget about Jia. But later when they get back together and Kuni, like a detective, find out what happened and they have to try to find a solution, I do want to find out who this servant Soto is because it looks like she is one of the gods. Now Kuni is settled in the middle of nowhere and basically he has to start from the scratch again. He has to recruit whatever talent he can find, no matter you're man or woman, a noble or bandit, whatever talent you got, he has to get it. Speaking of the gods, they are now more open to intervene in the matter of human. They got their own way to interpret this law, so we will see them more often. Other than the plot, I can also find some cultural references from what I have just read. Like I said many times before, I do like this kind of Easter egg hunt. It was really fun to do so. First of all, it is about the history. When the old king in the story died, all the men in Dora has to do this labor work, this massive project, to build a massive graveyard, and I forgot what's the exact name of it. I think it's something like mausoleum. Basically, the body of the old king, along with his beloved girls and servants, treasures all buried underground, and then there will be some traps or mercury to protect this sacred place. You can find the exact same thing in real life. It is called the Mausoleum of the First Qin Emperor in Xi'an in China. I will insert some photos here and basically they are the same kind of project. You can even find like a massive real-size army that is made of terracotta. Did I want to say pannacotta? No, it is made of terracotta, which is epic. I think it is like in the story, the mercury is poisonous to human, so there are still quite a lot of it in this mausoleum, and it means that the core of it is still not yet explored. The second one I can think of is when Mata fighting this impossible war. He ordered his little army to take down all the ships, and then his soldiers basically got nothing to lose so they can fight like crazy. This has also happened in history, and it is also about a general trying to encourage his army to fight. We got this like Chinese idiom that I can find no translation on the internet, but in English, I think you can just simply say burn the boats or burn the bridges. And the last thing I can think of is about the Chinese philosophy. In chapter 38, you can find this quote, "But the people were like the sea. They could float a heavily laden ship or they could make it sink." It is of course a metaphor. The boat is the ruler and the water is the people he is ruling. This philosophy simply means that the people would determine the fate of the ruler. It comes from a philosopher called Sun Tzu in the Warring State period, which is the dynasty before the one this book is inspired by. He thought like this because of how unstable the Warring State period is, how quick can change between these states. So I think it is all I want to say in this update. Next time when you see me, I will probably finish this book, so I will see you all in the final update. As you can see, the old sofa is finally now gone, this elephant in the room. And the old dining table is also be taken away, so I have to build a new one now. Wish me luck, guys. Having a new dining table and removing the old sofa and the old dining table, meaning that I can finally put a desk in this room, also means that I can have this angle to film. I'm here to wrap up this reading vlog because finally I finished The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, and the ending is really sad. The last quarter of the book is basically the continuing conflict between Kuni and Marta. There is a clear difference between these two characters. Kuni is such a caring person. Marta is a noble warrior who follows those traditional values, let's say glory and honor. This kind of difference started to build up even in the lower ranks of the soldiers. This later would turn into a mistrust because of how one side sees the other. I think how this conflict ends is kind of predictable. Nearly the end of the story, we know which side got the upper hand, which side got more resources, and logically the other side is running out of it and the morale is not great. In the final confrontation, using that method to get rid of the remaining morale is great, is smart, and how this conflict ends is satisfying to my taste. In the story, there are quite a lot of science and engineering giving a steampunk vibe. For example, we have Jean's version of submarine and also Perrin's parachute, which when I read the reviews about this series, I didn't expect would be this full on. There are quite a lot of explanation behind this kind of invention. And then like I said in the last update, the arrival of Jean made Kuni realize that why should we just limit our talent to men only? So they started to recruit female who can be sewer, who can be herbalist, who can be a widow. By doing so, they make the army more productive, and in a sense, they win the war because of them. Speaking of winning the war, we also see more psychological warfare from Kuni's side. Congo and Luan are really smart. Let's say they will spread the seed of doubt among the important figures so they don't have to do anything. That important figure will be removed. Or maybe they will just through persuasion so they don't need to use force to win a war. In these chapters, one of the characters stood out for the wrong reason, and that is King Sato. He is a firm believer of Confucius, which is the philosopher in the story, and he would literally follow every advice by this philosopher, which is of course stupid, but it was fun to read. Speaking of Confucius, maybe we can once again talk about the cultural reference in this story. Confucius, this name and also what he is advocating, let's say kindness, caring, compassion, all of this reminds me of the lead philosopher of Confucianism, which is Kongqiu. Since the setting of this world we have already known is the Qing dynasty, so Kuni and Marta, these two characters, I think are representing the founding emperor of the next dynasty, which is Liu Ban, and Marta is the general known as Xiang Yu. The ending of Marta reminds me so much of Xiang Yu, how by the end of the story he has to retreat to somewhere close to the water, and how some characters want to get a piece of him for reward. This whole part of historical and cultural references, I guess I will do another video like the Poppy War references. There are just so many things for me to cover just in this vlog. Let's say the end of Qing dynasty, the rise of Liu Ban and Xiang Yu, who was represented by Kuni and Marta respectively. I enjoyed the first book and I think this series is so well beloved by the community, so I want to do it a justice. And I don't think there are too many people talking about this side of the Dynasty dynasty. Overall, I did enjoy the first book and I would definitely keep on reading the rest of the series. This book starts really slow and I think the whole thing takes off when we are introduced to enough characters. And the turning point is definitely the parting of Kuni and Marta, this pair of friends. We're gonna follow a huge cast of characters and we got to know every single one of them. Even for the side characters, there are storylines for them which I totally appreciate. There are lots of battles and you can see different sort of tactics and approach from both sides. There are steampunk technology with detailed explanation about how they're gonna work and its application in the battle. There are romance, and there are also like certain stereotype of how wife should behave and what sort of image they will create. There are also discussion about philosophy and morality. Let's say, how would you know what you are doing now is right, and how people after so many generations would see you. Like I said earlier, one decision made earlier in the book can have a ripple effect across the story, which I think is smart. Now it looks like finally the time of peace has come, but there are some undercurrent. And will the gods play with the human again? I guess we shall find it out together next month. So if you have enjoyed this reading vlog, don't forget to give it a like. If you don't want to miss any content from me, make sure you have subscribed to my channel. I'll see you real soon. Goodbye.